Okay, let's have some fun with this. I was thinking about doing a YouTube session or at least a video on how to create a course in a day or an afternoon or a morning, an hour. And the reason is we've got all this ChatGPT stuff and all these AI tools coming out. And I've created a lot of courses already. And in fact, probably in the hundreds, I would think, in terms of courses, in the thousands when it comes to actual tutorials or video tutorials. I've been doing a long time, and it usually takes a long time to do it. And with all of this AI stuff and ChatGPT stuff, we've all been told that we can create a course really quickly, any online content very quickly. All we needed to do was learn how to give ChatGPT some great prompts, learn how to do prompts, and all of a sudden we'd be able to create courses in only minutes. Well, I'm going to go over today the worst prompt you could ever possibly give ChatGPT to create an online course, and why it's absolutely a huge mistake. And more importantly, why you probably don't want to learn how to give really good prompts or be an expert at prompting ChatGPT. So let me explain how this all fits in. So if you're thinking about creating a course, you probably have an idea. So for example, if I wanted to create a course on how to play pickleball for beginners, or how to start investing when you're in high school and it's your first investment, how to pick the right stock, doesn't really matter what it is, but you've probably been told, or you're thinking about, all I need to do is learn how to do a great prompt and it'll come out and I'll have my course content there. And then I can add my course content, do a little bit of tweaking and put it into some kind of platform, whether it's on my own WordPress site or on one of the hosted platforms like Kajabi or Thinkific or Teachable or Circle or School or any of these other ones, and everything will be great. Let's take a look at what we've been taught, and then here's a suggestion that I'm going to make that I want you to play around with. Now, we're going to look at ChatGPT. I've got a paid version here. It works the same thing in the free version now. And we're also going to be looking at ChatGPT 4.0, which is the newest model that has just come out. And to put this in perspective, just to give you an example, Teach Online, where we're redoing our campus here, you'll see, I think there's 41 courses that are available now. All sorts of content. Some of it's video, a lot of it is either graphics and or text. There's multimodal learning. In the example I'm going to show you today, it's going to be a text-based course. It can be a little finessed here, which is another video, but it's just to show you the idea, or basically the platform. And what's the big gist here? If I go take a look at, let me just open this up. I'll pull this over just so that you can see it. This is actually something that I bought access to a long time ago, probably almost a year ago, just when I was getting started with ChatGPT, learning how to do prompting, all of that stuff. And it was just a really good way to get a handle on creating prompts, because we were all told at the time that what you needed to do to actually create a prompt is all you had to do was just be very specific, ask a question, give it context, tell it exactly what you wanted, and everything would work out perfectly. I think the ones, here's one, I'll just open another one up here. I was just playing around with it. What was the one here? So it was like, you've probably been told in the past, it's like, here's one, I'll just give you one just so I can read it. So prompting all the wrong way. So you want to give it some background information, and remember, you're creating a prompt, a single prompt. A task or objective, specific details or requirements tend to be on how it was outputted, a format or style, some examples, and any additional instructions. And in many cases, what we got was a long sentence or a couple of sentences, and it was a prompt. And you were told if you created a really good prompt, you would be able to have all of a sudden all of the content that you needed for your course to show up with the lessons and the topics. Now, here's what I want you to consider, and I think what's going to be important as we're moving forward with this. It's not about creating a prompt or getting good at prompts, and you don't ever want to create a prompt like we just looked at. It is an absolute waste of time. It's going to get you crappy content that can't be used even to get a curriculum or a syllabus of what you want for the outline of the course. There's a couple different ways to do it. So let's take a look at how that actually might fit in. So I'm going to use two words here, kind of different way to describe it so that you can think about, what when I'm talking to ChatGPT, how does it actually work? I want you to consider something called conversational prompting. And I got into this a little bit more, especially when the downloadable software for Mac here for ChatGPT became available, because it's an app on the desktop, right? It's not logging into a site, it's an actual app on the desktop. And what you're going to find yourself doing over time now is not worrying about doing a prompt. You're going to have to get good at having a conversation with ChatGPT. And that makes a big difference on how things work in terms of the output that you get. Because what you're doing up front is a natural language process. It's not something that's written in a technical way. You're having a conversation with another person who's able to give you some output. And if you get into the types of prompts that I'm talking about here, is like, you have to know obviously what the definition, like what do you want to have outcome? Do you want a course to come out? You're going to have to talk about a course, obviously, and you have a purpose of what you want. Do you want the course content at the end of the day? Do you want just the outline of the course? What are the pieces that you want to play around with there? And you're going to have four types of prompts that you want to consider. The prompts are the types of questions that you ask. So you're going to have open-ended prompts where you're just giving ChatGPT the opportunity to discuss with you what it is that you're trying to produce at the end of the day. So can you tell me a little bit about how you handle online courses with other people talking to you? Or, what do you think about online courses that are only text-based? Or what do you think about the length of online courses? Just ask an open-ended question. Start to have a conversation with it. Once you've kind of got some pieces, you're going to find that you're going to go back and forth. It's not about prompting anymore. It's about conversing with ChatGPT. And you're going to ask at some point where it gives you an answer in those open-ended prompts. You can just say, well, you've mentioned this type and this type, which is the best to go forward with or use in this situation, and then why? So you're asking some questions, giving it the opportunity of answering or choosing between something and then explaining itself. And these are things that you're going to do. For example, let's say if to create a training course that is for a specific task or outcome, you're going to want to say, look, what's the best way of doing this? What are my options of doing it? So you're asking questions. You're not trying to figure out what a perfect prompt is. You're just having a conversation and using the expertise that you have about your background and what you want, and the ChatGPT knowledge base to have a conversation back with you to give you some options or ideas on how best to move forward with it. Okay? So you want to make sure that you're precise, you've got clarity, it's in context, but don't worry about prompting. Just start asking questions and having a conversation. You still have to know what the definition or the purpose is at the start, but don't get hung up on, I have to figure out how to do a prompt. Okay? Some other things you just want to consider there when you're doing that. That's called conversational prompting. The other one that you're going to find is you'll hear measured or talked about is sequential prompting. And sequential prompting is it's a way for you to have a series of questions or series of outputs that you want over time. And what I mean by that is if you have a course and you know what the outcome of the course is, what you can do is say, and I started a little bit, but it's like, what's the best way to do this if I want to have this outcome? What are the steps that I need? Is this the proper step? And then what you can do is ask the questions of or discuss each of these individual ones in the sequence after you've decided on the sequence. And I'm going to give you an example of how this works. One of the things I was just playing around with, let me do this one here. I'm actually going to I'll bring ChatGPT, the app, actually right up on the desktop here. So hopefully we can see it. I'll pull it over, and that's not the one I wanted. So let me bring this one over and we get the right one on the screen here. there. Let's go and see where it is now. There we go. There, okay, bring it up on the screen here. So this is kind of how I was getting into it today, and how I was kind of figuring it out. Not figuring out, but really thinking and going through and spending a little bit of time with that. So here's how I started the conversation right up at the stop. And where we go, just how this started. So I just said I wanted to create a detailed video. This is up here, right here. It says I want to create a detailed video tutorial that includes a very specific checklist of tasks and choices for my first-time course creators building a membership or community to sell courses online. So I just told what the context was. I didn't give a prompt. I just said, this is what I'm doing. And what happens is ChatGPT gave me a detailed video tutorial with a specific checklist. It answered and it went through, here's the introduction, here's the lessons, here are the bullet points, stuff like that. And this is an example of what you normally get is just the lesson plan, which isn't necessarily what I wanted in this case. So what I did is I just waited for it to do its output. And it gave me all the sections, lessons, a thing. I could actually create a course from here. That would be wonderful. But it's not necessarily what I wanted, right? It's a big, long lesson. I just said, get down in the nitty gritty. What are the big choices that would have to be made setting up a service? So I gave some more context as, okay, here's my course, but I'm going to put it in this particular platform and dig down deeper. What else what else do I need to think about? Not necessarily the course outline, but what are the choices and things that I need to figure out? So it went down a little bit further, okay, with these two different apps we're talking about, Circle and Heartbeat, two ones that I recommend. It's like, here are the pieces. Like, what are you going to choose for the platform? How are you going to set up the community? How are you going to create the accounts and onboarding? How are you going to do all that stuff? How are you going to customize a community? So this isn't necessarily about the lesson plan. We went down a level. And again, I'm just trying to get a little bit further in more meat into this. Again, it gave me some little more stuff and then a checklist at the end to go through that I can use. And then I said, what about the types of groups that could be good ideas to create? So one of the things in communities, of course, are either a Facebook group or your community group is you have specific categories. I just said, what are some of the groups that might want to be created? And it went through and it gave me a whole bunch of group types and their purposes. It gave me 10 different groups. Some of them I hadn't considered. For example, interest-based groups, course-specific groups, support and feedback groups, member-led groups. It gave me 10. So any of these ones, I could ask some more questions about this particular piece. Example group setups. What is the actual name of the group? What is discussed in the group and the description of it? Best practices for groups. So the only reason I'm showing you this is what I want you to consider is next time that you're creating a course, next time that you're thinking, I'm going to use an AI tool and all I need to do is give it a good prompt, you're absolutely wrong. I want you to have a conversation with the AI tool and understand what it is that you want, how deep you want it to go. And when you've got all of this put together, then you're going to ask specifically with that one prompt that says, I have this particular lesson 1 that is covering these particular tools that I want this kind of content, this amount, and get specific on a prompt that you use for courses all of the time. But getting this big picture first and having a conversation is far more effective than trying to look into a prompt, get some output, and use that in as a course. You can do that, and I'm not sure a lot of people are going to be doing it. But what's going to happen over the next while is people are going to be slamming crappy content down and not have any value or any depth into it. When you have a conversation with ChatGPT, you're allowing yourself, your personality, your experiences to craft the responses that you get, not based on the prompt that you've given, but for the discussion that you've had. So play around with that in the future. I hope you enjoyed this. We got lots more of these. This is just one I ran into today. We do these live. I try and do them on a regular basis. Of course, like and subscribe. If you want to join our community at teachonline.io, we're just getting that one wrapped up again. or ramped up, pardon me, you're welcome to join, ask your questions. We'll talk about everything to do with starting, building, and growing your training business, whether it's creating courses, creating community sites, marketing your community site, figuring out what kind of course or membership or community that you should actually want to be started. And again, if you have any questions, drop one in below. If you think I'm absolutely wrong and full of it, let me know in the comments before and we can have a discussion about it. So like and subscribe. We'll be back again tomorrow with some more great content about growing your training business with trainingsites.io and teachonline.io. Take care. Expect the best.